Pompey Sound. Updates, the latest from Fratton Park, on the hour, every hour. Fueled by Piglet's Pantry. Click pigletspantry.co.uk to get your fill.
Portsmouth FC is shifting their transfer focus to international markets ahead of their second championship season, according to Chief Executive Andy Cullen. The club's recruitment team is increasingly looking overseas, believing they'll find better value for money abroad. This strategy has already proved successful, particularly in Australia, where the club has been actively scouting since Rich Hughes came on as sporting director in September 2022. Pompey's recent international signings include Terry Devlin from Northern Ireland's Glentoran and several promising European talents. Austrian midfielder Nico Schmid, who joined from BW Linz for €400,000, has been a standout success. The club also brought in Elias Sorensen from Denmark and Abdoulaye Kamara from Borussia Dortmund. Cullen explains that this international focus comes as the free agent market looks thinner this year, despite last season's success with Josh Murphy. He also notes fewer under-21 players seem ready for immediate championship impact. The free agent pool is smaller this year, which is driving up costs, Cullen explains. We've had great success with our Australian recruits. There are about 31 Aussie players in the EFL, and we've got 4 of them. Our venture into the Austrian market with Nico has also paid off. Young, hungry players from abroad are keen to prove themselves in the Championship, which remains Europe's second most watched league in terms of attendance. The transfer window opens on June 1st, briefly closes from June 10 to 16, and then runs until September 1st at 7 p.m. This unusual schedule accommodates FIFA Club World Cup participants while staying within the 89-day limit.
Right, go and have a gargle with salt water. My friend, broke up a little bit there. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. Having foreign players coming in, it's a different type of excitement and anticipation, isn't it, than if they are coming in from an English club, where we may never have heard of them, but somehow we feel more familiar with what they're likely to bring onto the pitch. But if they're coming from exotic places, well, everywhere seems exotic, doesn't it, compared to where we live. So France, they're going to be full of flourish and debonair skills and what have you. And sometimes they are. Australia, they're going to be battle-hardened, serious men with a good sense of humour and, thirsty, I would imagine. Most Australians I've met, forthright, friendly and thirsty. We imagine all those things. And so it makes the signing of foreign players that much more exotic. I've got one bone to pick with the news team, though, and that is describing a Northern Irelander as a foreigner. Without getting into the politics of Ireland at all, because I do remember a man being interviewed in the street in Belfast some time ago, actually, and he said anyone who thinks they know what the problems are in Northern Ireland doesn't really know what the problems are. And that probably sums it up. But we're not talking about the troubles here. We're talking about the simple fact of the matter, which is that Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, and therefore he's not a foreigner, although, of course, he plays for a different country. So it's complicated, but I don't count Terry Devlin as being a foreign signing. Myself. I dare say somewhere in the paperwork he is identified as a foreign player, but it doesn't seem right. We've always had Scots in the Pompey side that I can remember, and plenty of Welsh too, and we don't regard them as being, imported, do we? But we can brace ourselves for a number of arrivals from far and wide this summer. And we look forward to every new face. We always do. We trust that they are going to turn out to be the new Ronaldo or whatever. We do. And they don't. But often we're very, very pleased with the calibre of our new acquisitions. So I hope you're not listening to this, Rich Hughes. You should be recruiting, mate. Get on with it.
As the close season takes hold, solid football news dries up a little, especially at weekends, which become comparatively empty. Up north, the Lancashire Post has filled pages with an intriguing story which appears to claim John Messino as one of Preston's own. They describe John as an ex-North End man, and seem to hope that some of the credit for the work he's doing at Fratton Park belongs to Preston. John played 32 times for them between 2012 and 2014, before his surprise entry into management under the Eisners. He won the League One title in his first full year in management, and ended up taking Pompey to a comfortable 16th place in the Championship the following season. His achievements are being roundly applauded in a great many corners of English football, and perhaps further afield as well, as he looks to recruit more foreign stars. The Lancashire Post is quick to point out there are a number of clubs looking for a manager: Hull, Norwich and Southampton to name but three. At one point he was favourite for the West Brom role, but he and Andy Cullen were quick to rubbish those rumours. Elsewhere in their article describing Messino as the former Deepdale man, they remind their readers that he is the second longest serving manager in the Championship.
And reading between the lines, here's a club who, in places, wish that John Messino was their manager. Yeah. So it's kind of flattering in a way, isn't it? That we've got this much coveted manager. When was the last time we had such a coveted manager? I suppose Harry Redknapp. Lots of people would have liked to have had Harry when we had Harry. But then you go way back. You go a long way back before people would talk. I can't remember people talking about a Pompey manager who is so successful, so effortlessly competent, gets everything right, is going places. Please, fingers crossed, we're going with him. But yeah, an interesting piece on a very much sort of non-news weekend, non-football news weekend. The idea that up at Preston, they're wondering whether they ought to have spotted his impending talent as a manager and maybe got on the phone to him when he was available as a player coach at Oxford United, which is what Pompey did. Thanks, I understand, to a sort of chance meeting between Rich Hughes and John Messino at one of the FA coaching badge courses that they turned out to be at together and got on well. The rumour I've heard is that they were the only ones who didn't go out drinking every night. But that doesn't mind a pint, John Messino, for sure. But they used to go on their training runs side by side. So sometimes you need a little bit of luck in everything in life, and certainly it doesn't go amiss in football. So anyway, Lancashire, hands off. He's ours.
Leicester City face a potential points deduction in the Championship next season after the Premier League charged the club with breaching profitability and sustainability rules. That's one of 3 alleged breaches relating to the 2023-24 season, when Leicester won promotion to the top flight, which have been referred to an independent commission. They'll play in the second tier next season, but updated rules stipulate a penalty can be administered at any time, after an independent panel found last year that the Premier League had no jurisdiction to charge them for allegedly breaching the PSR threshold in 2022-23. The share allotments, filed with Companies House this week, capitalise previous loans from KPI and Contop, which have supported the club's recent development. The move strengthens the club's balance sheet, reduces interest costs, and relieves the club of all remaining shareholder loans. This latest debt-to-equity conversion takes the Srivardhanaprabha family's overall investment during its ownership of Leicester City to over £420 million. The club remains grateful for the family's unwavering support and for the long-term security they continue to provide. Leicester had argued they could not be punished by the Premier League because they had been relegated to the Championship when their accounting period ended on the 30th of June. A tribunal ended the dispute over the 2022-23 accounts, but Leicester now face charges relating to the following season. Leicester are also alleged to have breached the club's obligation to provide their annual accounts to the Premier League by the 31st of December 2024 and to provide full, complete and prompt assistance to the league in response to its inquiries. Leicester say they will engage cooperatively in this matter. An English Football League spokesperson said, "The EFL notes that the Premier League has today referred Leicester City to an independent commission for an alleged breach of profit and sustainability rules for the period ending season 2023-24.
So one of the clubs that will be engaged in action against next season, Leicester City, face a possible points deduction for financial irregularities. But we learn, thanks to Companies House making these things public, that their owners have put £420 million of their own money into the club, presumably hoping to make a profit. So how much is a club like Leicester worth? It depends entirely on where they are in the league. And having been relegated, they're obviously worth an awful lot less than they would have been worth when they were a mid-table Premier League side. And goodness knows what they were worth when they won the Premier League, although that was seen as a bit of a flash in the pan, so they didn't find themselves as highly valued as, for example, the top Premier League teams such as Man U, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool. Their worth can range, would you believe, from £1 to £3 billion. If you're a mid-table Premier League team, this is Brighton, Brentford, well, you know what a mid-league, you don't need me to tell you what a mid-table Premier League team is. Those clubs could be valued anywhere between £500 million and £800 million. These are the latest figures, but they're only estimates, but they're estimates that are done by people who know a good deal about what they're talking about. So if Leicester are a mid-table Premier League team and their owners put 420 million into them, and it was a loan, by the way, it wasn't an investment, it wasn't given to the club, which is what the Eisners are doing with Pompey. They're not lending Pompey the money that they're spending on facilities and will spend this season on coming season on transfer fees and salaries. Mid-table clubs, 500 million to 800 million pounds. So if Leicester worked out as being a bottom of the range mid-table Premier League team, they'd be worth 500 million. Which would mean that if that's all they've put into the club, the owners, 420 million, I say all, eye-watering, isn't it, really? Wouldn't you just want one of those millions for yourself? That would do you. But these people had this much money to throw around. And by the way, as an aside, like everybody else, I've always thought that people who make vast amounts of money are people who are canny with the system. They've got streetwise. They know how to get these things done and stay ahead of the authorities. I'm not accusing them of anything criminal at all. Although financial regularity is what one would presume a borderline criminality, but not. Premier League clubs at the risk of relegation, you could buy one of those for £200 million. Championship clubs, this is where it gets interesting for Pompey. The estimate of the worth of an average championship club, which has possibilities of promotion, could be worth £100 million. Now, those who like to be critical of the Eisners will seize on that and say, look, they're supposed to have spent 10, 20 million pounds on the ground and on the training facility, and they've written 3 or 4 cheques recently for 4 or 5 million pounds to pay off the club's shortfall in income against outgoings. So let's say that they've put 30, 40 million pounds into Portsmouth and given it to Portsmouth, by the way, not lent it, invested it, they would, I suspect is the right term. If we were chasing promotion, we could be sold by the Eisners for £100 million. This piece of intelligence tells us. Whereas those fighting relegation, which of course is where we were in the season that's just finished, might be valued at £40 million, which is pretty much exactly what the Eisners have invested or given, or the cheques that they have written for Portsmouth FC. So in other words, at the end of the last season, the Eisners' investment in Portsmouth, their involvement in Portsmouth, has broken even. They could sell the club for about £40 million, but they've invested, given, donated, however you want to put it, £40 million into the club. So they'd break even, which is not Michael Eisner's style, really, as a businessman and as a man who is an absolute kingpin of the entertainment and recreation industries. That's not what he wants to hear. As a League One club, remember that investment was going on into Pompey when we were in League One. A recently relegated team from the Championship could be valued at around £40 million, whilst the others, and this was us when we were joined by John Messino, the others might be in the £20 million range. So at the time of parting company with the Cowleys, the Eisners were looking at a loss of somewhere between 10, 20 million pounds or dollars. Kind of interesting, isn't it, to spend some moments in your head in the world of people who have millions and millions and millions of pounds and continue to want more, which is an important part of their psychology. They want the Eisners want to be even richer. The richer you get, apparently, the more urgent is your need to have even more money. I no idea why. Has to do with bragging rights, I suppose, or sense of self-worth. But anyway, so there it is. Leicester City could face a points deduction, which we would welcome, I suppose, at Pompey. Don't wish ill on anybody, but if we can be 10 points ahead of Leicester at the start of the season, we take it. We'd say, sorry for you, it wasn't your fault, but that might help us out in the medium term, which is the coming season. But then there's the precariousness of their financial situation. They lost £120 million during the period that the inquiry is going to try to establish was or was not a matter of financial irregularity. They've also failed to provide their books for examination, and it's alleged failed to be transparent in a number of their financial activities. So it'll be kind of interesting to see the way this one unfolds, and if it works out to our advantage. Football fans the world over are sufficiently selfish for the development and the enhancement of their own club that we'll take it, and so will the other clubs in the Championship, actually. It's worth mentioning. Am I glad I'm not extremely rich? Are you, dear listener, glad you're not extremely rich? Well, I wouldn't mind a couple of years of being stinking rich and driven everywhere in a limo and flying first class with no trouble at all, down to wherever I've moored my yacht. Yeah, but it'd wear off, because frankly, I like the smell of hamburgers and onions on match day.